Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. I'm absolutely delighted to bring on former Spurs right back Dean Austin, who of course played for the club between 1992 and 1998. 124 appearances in the Premier League for Spurs, 17 appearances in the FA Cup and 9 appearances in the League Cup, 4 assists in the Premier League, 34 clean sheets, 47 wins in the Premier League and 23 yellow cards. Dean, thank you so much for coming on the channel. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'll tell you what, I never knew all those stats.
Dean, what's this last year been like for you with lockdown and everything?
I think it's been tough for everybody, mate. I think that from my point of view, it's been quite tough. Obviously, I left Watford a couple of months before. I was assistant manager at Watford and left there a couple of months before we locked down. So I had quite was working towards a new role or going into another role, and obviously pandemic, people making a lot of cuts, changing their ways that they were going to do things. So it's been an interesting time, but I always try and take a positive out of a negative, and I've got 3 fantastic young boys here. I've got four boys, but three younger ones that were between 15 and 12 at the time, and it's given me an opportunity to spend a lot more time with the family.
Absolutely.
But it's been a time as well for reflection. Reflect on the kind of, for me, the last sort of 17 years that I've been on this journey, as in journey of coaching, or should I say on the other side of football. So it's been a time for reflection and looking at where the next chapter is going to take me.
Yeah, very much so. We will come on to that. Dean, I want to cast your mind back to 1992. Of course, you signed for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Terry Venables signed you. You were only 22. Now, whilst growing up, you actually supported Spurs. So signing for Tottenham Hotspur must have been a dream come true for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for anybody, mate, to be able to sign for their club that they support. I became a Spurs supporter about 1980. I was 10. One of my dad's best friends was a season ticket holder. Had two season tickets in the East Stand, right on the upper east, on the front row above the shelf. And I was football crazy at that time, but I kind of just was mesmerised by 2 players, one by the name of Hoddle and one by the name of Ardiles, and that was me. I was then pretty much a Spurs nut.
Dean, that first Premier League season, of course, on the opening day, we played Southampton away and we drew 0-0. You were on the bench that day. You didn't get to make your Tottenham Premier League debut until the 3rd game of the season against Crystal Palace, coming on as sub. How was that walking out of White Hart Lane and actually playing a game, competitive game for Spurs?
Well, I think I was pretty much in awe at the time of signing for Spurs. It was it was a massive thing for me and my family. But I think that I'll never forget. It's quite a funny story, actually. Obviously, Terry, I got to get on really well with Fen, and Fen was the sort of one of the players that the fans liked to go after at that particular time. But Fen was a great guy and helped me a hell of a lot. But never forget, I was warming up in the first game down at Southampton at the Dell, and where I was warming up and stretching off was where the Spurs fans were actually seated behind me, and some funny comments coming through, and some bloke shouts out, "Oi, Austin, you must be crap if you can't get in front of Terry Fenwick." And I was like, yeah, I was 22, nervous as a kitten anyway, completely in awe of the situation that I was at. And but just a little funny story beyond that. But I obviously made my debut coming on in the home game against Crystal Palace. Again, it was a very proud day for me, but it was a proud day for me that was tarnished with a little bit of sadness because my granddad had died the day before. So it was quite a big day for our family when I made my debut on that day. Obviously, my full debut was 3 days later away to Leeds, which was not the most memorable game for the right reasons. Put it that way.
Dean, that season was very up and down, wasn't it? You know, as you just mentioned there, that 5-0 defeat at Champions League United. We lost 4-1 away at Manchester United, a 3-0 defeat away at Middlesbrough. But then we did have some very good results that season, beating Leeds United at home 4-0, beating Liverpool 2-0 and beating Arsenal away 3-1. But what I tend to remember about that season is when we went to the FA Cup semi-final against Arsenal and we lost that game. Real disappointment in that game. You know, what were your thoughts after that match?
Well, it took me, excuse me, it took me days to get over that, Chris, to be fair. That was, I had some, being a professional footballer is full of incredible highs, but when the lows are low, it's low. That season for us was kind of a new group of boys coming together. A lot of new signings, obviously. In the summer, Lineker had gone off to Japan. Gaza, obviously, gone to Lazio through the course of that summer. Then Paul Stewart went to Liverpool. So there was a lot of, but then obviously there was myself, Darren Anderton, Razor, Teddy Sheringham, you know, came into that team. But we kind of believed, we knew what Terry was trying to build at that point, and you know, it was an exciting time for us. Obviously, our results were a bit up and down in the first sort of 3-4 months of the season, but after Christmas, we really kicked into some gear. We had the odd disappointing result after that. So obviously, we rested a few players before semi-final the night that we got hammered by Sheffield United, but everybody's head was at Wembley. And then after the semi-final, you talk about the defeat at Middlesbrough. I think that's everyone's head was kind of looking at next season at that point as well, and that was right at the end of the season. But we had a great run. After Christmas that year. Was thoroughly enjoyable, really exciting time, and was I would say the club was, or the players side of it, we had a vibrant group. It was a group that were really excited about what the improvements that Terry was going to make to the team or to the squad, and he was going to make those as well. There was 3 or 4 players that we knew that were pretty much going to be coming in, and it was very exciting at the time.
Yeah, I remember it very well. Dean, for you, signing from Southend, who were, of course, the equivalent of League One and League Two, you know, you going up to the Premier League, how did you feel that step up? Did you think you adapted very well?
Well, yes and no. Not initially. Initially, I think that I was pretty much in awe of the situation. I was always a very quiet lad, to be honest with you, quite shy boy, and but I was very hungry. We'd had successive promotions at Southend, so we'd gone from the old Division 4 into League 1, which is now League 2, all the way up to the Championship. We've competed in the Championship very, very well. Up until the manager, David Webb, said that he was going to leave in February. We were top of the league. We'd lost narrowly to Everton in the FA Cup. We'd lost 1-0 away from home. And I had quite a lot of interest at that time. There had been quite a few clubs that had been trying to sign me or wanted to sign me. So although it was nice, it was still a little bit. I still had a little bit of anxiety there, you know, and I think I still had that when I first came in. When I first came in, I didn't have a fast start. You know, actually, I'll never forget one day. God bless him, Ray Clements come and pulled me one day. He was obviously assistant coach. Pulled me one time, and I think it was actually after the Southampton game. There was another game in midweek, and but the reserves were playing on the same night. And Ray Clem come and spoke to me and said, "Look, we want you to go and have a full game. Go and get 90 minutes under your belt." The reserves were playing at Charlton, I think it was. And he said, "Look, I just want to say something to you." He said, "Look," he said, "you've got so much going for you. Like, you're here because you're a good player, mate. So don't be nervous or be in awe of the situation. I know it's a bit different from what you've come from, and you've come a long way in a short space of time. Because 2 years previous to that, I was playing at St Albans City."
Yeah.
So he said to me, he said, "Look," he said, you've got to embrace this opportunity. You know," he said, "I've seen a lot bigger players than yourself. I've seen world-class players come to this club and not be able to handle it, not be able to handle the situation, not be able to handle the expectation, not be able to handle the how demanding the supporters are and whatever." He said, "But you're here because you deserve to be here. So whatever is holding you back, or he said, you need to let the shackles off, mate, and you've got to let it go." And I've got to say, it's probably, I'd say it's probably the biggest 5-minute chat I had in my 6 years at Spurs. And obviously to come from someone as respected as Ray as well, you know, with the trophies that he had won. And from that moment, really, I sort of basically was right, okay, it's time to roll my sleeves up now. It's let's get on. It's game on. It's time to get working.
Dean, you mentioned earlier about Ossie Ardiles being one of your idols, and of course, you know, in your second season, Ossie Ardiles comes in as manager. What on earth was that like for you personally when you'd been so used to seeing him play?
Well, quite surreal when you end up being in a room in the manager's office and you're sitting across from one of your idols. It's quite a surreal experience. I think that from my point of view, we had a good start to that season, and then I broke my leg.
Yeah.
Actually had an injury that Ossie had himself. Ossie said to me afterwards, "Don't fret. You'll come back from this." I had exactly the same injury here in 85, I think he said, or 86. He's so supportive in that way. Obviously, when I got injured, Spurs went out and signed Dave Kerslake, who had been Ossie's right back at Swindon. So they signed David from Leeds, and it was a tough period. I'm not going to lie, Chris. It was a tough period for me. After that, it was I come back from the injury fine, quite quick. Was back inside 10 weeks. I found it tough to dislodge David. David was obviously someone who Ossie knew as well, so yeah. It was very tough. I got back in the team after Christmas, but I was in and out. I played some games and played some good games, and then when I didn't play so well, I then didn't play. And you know, by the time I did get back in the side towards the end of the season, we're like staring at relegation, really. So that was tough. But again, out of that real negative, a very you know, we had the game away to Oldham that we won. It was a Sky game at the time, and we won that game. And again, that was, you know, unbelievable support. The away support was incredible, and you know, that was a high. Even though that it was a high for the wrong reasons, it was still a high. It was still one of those experiences that make the hairs on the back of your neck come up and make you feel proud to be playing for your club.
That must have been a very weird time for you, Dean, because of course, as you mentioned, you broke your leg in the home game against Oldham. You went off in the 74th minute, and then when you returned, of course, we were in this relegation fight, and we finished the season only 3 points above the relegation zone. So, you know, what were you thinking as a player at that stage?
Well, when you know, I think we was in the top three. I think we beat Oldham 4-1 on that day, and you know, the injury itself was my own fault. You know, we were winning 4-1 at the time, and I decided I was having a little bit of a set to with one of the Oldham players, Mark Brennan, and I decided to take it upon myself to try and kick lumps out of him. So, and trying to do that, I was a bit late on the tackle. I got my foot caught in the ground, and as I turned, he come up and his weight come down and broke my leg. Obviously, when you have an injury like that, there's a million things that go through your head. You know, you're thinking, am I ever going to play again? How serious is it? How serious is the injury? I knew it was serious. I heard the crack. The crack, and then what followed was excruciating pain after that night. You know, I had excruciating pain. So from that, really, you know, I used to go to all the home games. A lot of the away games used to be screened upstairs at the stadium, so I used to go and watch the away games as well and support the boys. Obviously, we were in the top three at that time when I got injured, but it was a very different story by the time that I'd got back to full fitness and actually was in a position to be able, that the manager was prepared to play me. I think that you have, I think that you can, you know, when you're outside of the club and you go home, I think that sort of situation will play on your mind. You will think, well, how we come to this position, how the hell we ended up being here with the squad of players that we got. Obviously, we had injuries at that time. We had quite a few injuries and what had happened. And it was kind of like, well, you know, you're kind of fearing a little bit for your future. But I think that when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, you know, we got the injuries back, we got the injured players back. We knew that we had enough. We believed in how we play. And, you know, we ultimately believed that we'd win enough games to get ourselves out of trouble.
Yeah. Dean, of course, the very next season, 94-95, I myself call it the Klinsmann season. It's one of my best and favourite seasons supporting Spurs. Now, when you saw the news that Jurgen Klinsmann and Popescu and Dumitrescu had signed for Spurs, what were your thoughts as a player?
Well, I'd like to think that, you know, I'm a pretty humble guy, Chris, and I'm pretty feet on the ground type of person.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to be able to go into work every day, and you'd be pinching yourself every day, playing with the calibre of players that you're playing with. You know, to have the opportunity, to have the experience to play with Jurgen, who was, you know, people were saying that he was on his way down at the time. Not a chance, mate. He was at the top of his game.
Incredible.
Absolutely at the top of his game. And obviously it was a difficult time for me because I had probably one of the best pre-seasons that I'd had as a professional. And then 2 days before, Ossie called me in to tell me that I wasn't going to be playing on Saturday. Justin Edinburgh was coming back from injury. Dave Gerslake had been playing left back in pre-season, but he was going to go with David, and I was not going to be in the squad, which is something that I never took too well. To be fair, that really did. It kind of, well, it destroyed me for a while, Chris. To be fair, but you know, one of the biggest things that professional footballers have to be able to have at any time, and even more so now, is resilience. You've got to have a resilience. You've got to have very, very thick skin. You've got to be able to. You basically are on a roller coaster ride, and you've got to be prepared to ride with it. You know, you've got to be able to not get too high when it gets high, and you've got to try not to let it get you down too much when it gets. When things aren't so good. That was an especially bad period for me, to be fair, at that time. August, September, October. You know, it was not a good time for me. It was disappointing. I fell out with Ossie, but you know, that is something that I can look back now after all this time and really regret. And I do have a lot of regrets, but we do laugh about it. We still play golf, like we play golf now with the legends, and you know, we do have a little chuckle now and again about it. But you know, it was a difficult period for me. I got back in the team. I got back in the team through really a quite a famous game, really, which was probably ultimately the final nail in Ossie's regime, which was away to Notts County.
3-0, yeah.
I got back in the team, and in about the first 3 or 4 minutes, I've gone in for a tackle, and basically the player's gone over the top of the ball and left a 4-inch gash down the inside of my shin that was probably wide open. The physio come on and went, "Dean, you've got to come off." And I've said, "I ain't coming off. You best put something on that and strap it over, because there's no way I'm coming off." I said, "I've waited for it for 3 months for this, 3 months for this day, or for this opportunity. I'm not coming off. So you just conceal the wound and we get on with it." The wound was so bad, but by the time we got to Saturday, there was no way I was going to be able to play. And that game happened to be Ossie's last game. But it was not. It was a period of uncertainty for me, because there was at that time in that summer when Ossie had come in, there was other clubs that wanted to buy me, but you know, I had a very good relationship, manager-player relationship with Terry, but also, and even though he had gone, it was still Spurs was still my club, and then Ossie was coming in, so it was, you know, one of those experiences that, you know, I wanted to have. I still wanted to be at the club. I'd had a pretty solid first season, but at the end of the first season, I played with a hernia, Chris, for 6 months. So from October through to after the semi-final, it was after the Middlesbrough game when we got beat by Middlesbrough 3-0.
Yeah.
It was 2 games before the end. The management just said to me, "Listen, you need to go and get this done. Go and get it done, and get yourself a good summer, and then you can get back fit for pre-season." So I had the hernia that I played with then, and then obviously in the second season I broke my leg, and then sort of Ossie left, and then Gerry Francis came in, and to be honest with you, it was the best thing for me at that time. Gerry came in, and there was a lot of story. There was some stories in the newspapers before his first, or I think it was his second game. I think it was second game, so I didn't play the first game. I was still struggling with this gash down the shin, so I had stitches and what have you. I'd had them out in the lead up to that game, but it was just a bit too close. And then we played Chelsea at home on the Wednesday night, and in the papers that day, it had been the big thing on the back page of the papers that Gerry was going to sign David Barsley, and I think it was me and I think it was Jason Cundy were going to be traded in so he could do that, etc., etc. And to be fair, Gerry was superb. He called me in when he got to the game and he said, "Listen, you're not going anywhere. You're playing tonight, by the way." He said, "I really like you as a player." He says, "and I'm looking forward to working with you." He says, "So Dave Barsley is not coming here." He said, "So you just need to get your head down and get working." And to be fair, it was a great man management. Gave me a real lift before the game. And then that was it, really. I didn't look back that year. I think I played near on every game. I had a 3-game suspension, so I had I had sort of probably 5 or 6 bookings out of that 24 that you kindly reminded me about at the beginning with my statistics. So I missed 3 games. I think it was at the end of January. But I got he put me straight back in the team. We got it going. The team done well. But again, it was, I've got to say, it was a season that was a good season for me as in regards to playing, but one that was a big disappointment because of, again, another FA Cup semi-final where anything and everything in the lead up to the game that could go wrong did go wrong, and on the day we just never turned up. We were just totally outplayed.
It's funny you should mention that one, Dean, because I had Darren Anderson on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he says that a number of players in that dressing room after that Everton game probably thought that they had, really let themselves down. Did you feel like that as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think there was certain things on the we in the lead up to that game. In the lead up to that game, we lost 3 players who potentially could play left back. So Justin Edinburgh got injured, Sol Campbell got injured, and then Dave Kerslake got injured. So then Stuart never quite ended up going to left back, which probably for the young lad at the time was unfair. With hindsight, I wish I had sacrificed myself for the team because I'd already played there left back early on in that season away at Wimbledon. And I kind of wish that I just said to Gerry, "Listen, stick me there and stick him at right back." But Darren was struggling as well. Darren had a knee injury, I believe, on the way that. And to be fair, he was heavily strapped, and you could see he wasn't moving properly and what have you. But I think that there wasn't any of us. Well, I certainly, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I think you come off that game and just go, after the game, just thinking, what the hell happened? I remember throwing my boots in the bin, actually. I remember throwing my boots in the bin before I left. I said to Roy Rayland, who was a kit man at the time, I said, chuck them in the bin. I don't ever want to see them again. But it's, disappointment. Very big disappointment.
It was very hard to take, as from a fan's point of view as well. But if I could
take you, we've all been there, and I've been there. I've been there since. I've been in that. I've felt that in the years that I've not been a player, and I've gone back to being a fan.
Dean, if I could take you back to the previous round, beating Liverpool away at Anfield, talk to me about that game because we don't win at Anfield very often.
No, but I think I played there four times. I think I played there 4 times in my six years at Spurs. I won twice. One in my second season. I did play at the end of the first season, which we got hammered. But I did play under Ossie. We won 2-1. The quarter final was obviously, it was a massive game, massive occasion. The atmosphere was incredible, but the atmosphere was made more as as incredible as it was, by our fans filling the whole of the away end. But we, slow start, it sort of fed our way into it, but we played ever so well on that day. And the thing about the team under Gerry Francis, that there was a resilience about that team. We had great players, but it had a resilience. It never knew when it was beaten in that period, in that first year especially. We were super fit. We was as fit as any team in the league, and we had a bit of everything. We had power, we had some pace, but we also had some bloody good footballers.
When you mentioned that Chelsea game, of course, the first game that Gerry Francis took charge of was the 4-3 defeat against Aston Villa. I think we went 3-0 down, we pulled it back to 3-3, and then Dean Saunders got that winning goal. We were shipping goals under Ossie Ardiles, but then you come back for the Chelsea game and we drew 0-0. What did Gerry Francis say to the team, before that game to try and stop us leaking so many goals?
Well, Gerry was. We worked relentlessly on the defensive side of our game. I think that was the first game. I think that we went 6 games after that. I think we went 6 games, 6 consecutive clean sheets, something like that. It was a record at the time, something that we were very proud of as players at the time. But Gerry was very much the organisation of the team, the work rate of the team. And it was, we keep clean sheets, we win games because we've got players at the top end of the field that can hurt opposition.
Dean, do you keep in touch with many of the players that you played with at Tottenham now?
A few. I played before the last lockdown. I was out playing golf with Darren, Teddy, and Steve Sedgley. So we was playing golf at a rather nice golf course in Hertfordshire, which was good. It was good to see the guys. Bits and pieces on text and stuff. I speak to Sedge a little bit. I speak to Mickey Hazard a little bit. I speak to Darren a little bit, Teddy a little bit, David Howes. So yeah, I speak to. We do. It's not one of them that we're in touch every day of the week, Chris, but it's always good to see the chaps. And the golf season's coming round again, mate, and hopefully we're coming out of the lockdown, and I'm looking forward to the 26th of May when the Legends are playing at Wentworth, so it should be nice.
Absolutely, yes. We can't wait to get back to normal. Everyone talks about stories about Steve Sedgley, doing crazy things. Can you share any?
Well, I could, but there's some quite. I don't think we could allow, mate. It's quite rude.
Is that bad? Is it?
He was. He said he's. To be fair, he's a funny guy. Funny guy. Pretty bizarre guy. I will. There's a couple of stories I think I can share. He used to have this thing that we all had our set places at Mill Hill at the training ground, where we sat in the dressing room. They were your set places. So if a player, for example, I don't know whose place I took, but I sat in the place that where the player had vacated. That was where I had to sit, and I used to sit opposite Eric Torsfit in the dressing room at Mill Hill, and every day, or not every day, but many days, Eric would come in after he's had a shower and what have you, and he's trained. He'd go to put his socks on, and someone had cut the toes out of his socks. So everyone knew who it was. So the toes would be cut out of his socks. So all I will say is that Sedge took it a little bit too far one day, and he done something to one of Eric's gloves, and he chased him all around my little training ground. He couldn't catch him, but he did. He chased him he wouldn't let it go. He just kept going and going and going. But it was probably one of those that he probably he overstepped the mark a little bit, but the lads loved it. It was funny. We used to have on Mondays, normally what we used to do was that Harry Venables would let us have, as a recovery, he'd let us have a five-a-side. We'd play the young uns versus the old uns.
Yeah.
And basically, we had this old Hummel, bearing in mind we'd been in Umbro for a couple of years, but had this old yellow, dirty Hummel sweatshirt. It hadn't been washed in about 3 years and it stunk. It was covered in mud and what have you. And the worst player had to wear the yellow jersey for the whole week. And basically, on this day, the young uns, as they did most of the time, we won, and we won quite easy. So we had to have a vote as the young players. We had to vote for who we thought was the worst player in the Oldens team. So we was, right, well, it wasn't who was the worst player. It was whose skin could we get under if we gave him the yellow jersey? Who could we wind up? Who would we really, really get to? So we decided Terry Fenwick was the one. Fen was Mr. Angry, so we voted for Fen for the yellow jersey. So Fen, basically, he got the yellow jersey. It bucketing down with rain on this day, and he wasn't having it. So he got this yellow jersey. He got it, and he rubbed it all in mud, and he threw it up a tree and set fire to the yellow jersey.
Wow.
So I took it a bit personally. So basically what Sedge did, Sedge went into their dressing room. No one knew, by the way, no one knew what he was up to. He's gone in and he's got all Terry Fenwick's clothes, his jeans and his leather jacket and all his stuff. And basically it's bucketing down with rain. And he's threw it up a tree. He's put it all up this tree, like right out of reach. And it is bucketing down. So basically, Fen's gear is it's ruined. It's ruined. Yeah. So Fen has come steaming into the canteen, and he's fuming, and he's like going off on one. He's gone to Sedge. I know it's you. Blah blah blah. Da, da, da. And Sedge is going, don't know what you're on about, mate. Don't know what he said. Don't worry. He said, I'll have you. I will have my day with you, my friend. Don't worry. I will have you. So we, as I said, we had set places where we sit. So we never knew this at the time, but so we know that Fen's biding this. He's going to bide his time. He's just going to wait for the day. And one day we've come in, and obviously Fen, whether he was injured or whether he'd come in early from training or whatever, he's coming on this day. And as we walk by, we can smell fire. So we walk through, we look up, and there is, it's like a shell suit. It's like, the shell suits from the 90s. There's a shell suit that is up this tree, and it's on fire. This stuff, obviously the old shell suits, you get a torch, and up it's gone. So we just thought, whose gear is that? Anyway, so we've gone in. Anyway, sitting in the canteen. Fen's sitting there. He ain't got dressed or anything. He's still got his kit on. He walks in, and Sedge walks in with fully clothed. And Fen looks up at him and is like, he went, "Oh yeah, Fen." He said, like, I pretty much knew that you were going to try and get me. He said, so what I've done every day that I come in to go up changed, I swapped my clothes over with the person who was getting changed next to me. So on this given day, he'd set Darren Anderton's shell suit up on fire, Nike shell suit.
Darren didn't tell me that a few weeks ago.
It was, I've got to say, as it was, Darren was sponsored by Nike, so he was like the tracksuit wouldn't have been no big deal to him. But yeah, his shell suit was up the tree on fire, and he walks in and he said, "There you go, Fen." Anyway, Fen couldn't apologise enough to Darren and what have you, but we were absolutely in absolute stitches. But it was laugh a minute when that guy was around. It was laugh a minute.
Is he still like that now?
Yeah, he's toned it down a bit now. He has toned it down a little bit now. I have to play his golf game for him. We played golf at Chigwell in a game just after the first lockdown. So it was about June or July, and I played with Sid, and I love playing with Sid. It's great fun, like brilliant, and we get on really well, and always have got on really well. But the only thing is, when you play golf with Sid, you have to play his game for him as well. So it's like, what do you use, Dee? What do you 4-iron, 5-iron? Says, just hit the frigging ball, mate. Just play. He's a little bit like that, but brilliant.
Yeah,
absolute superb guy.
Dean, let's take you back to the 95-96 season. One highlight was beating the champions Manchester United 4-1. Tell me about that night.
Well, I can still remember that day. I mean, obviously it was 25th anniversary of that, which seems quite unbelievable, but I can remember it like it was yesterday. Unbelievable night. I mean, we had injuries, they had injuries, but on the night we just I mean, there's great nights at White Hart Lane, and there's great nights at White Hart Lane, and that was a great night at White Hart Lane. The atmosphere on that night was absolutely electric. It was unbelievable. And you talk about, as I said to you, talk about the incredible highs in your career and the incredible lows. That was one of those times that, no matter what I've gone through in my career, as in regards to all the low periods that I've had to have, I wouldn't swap it for anything. Like that night, to beat the champions 4-1, and in the manner in which we did it was just magical, really.
Dean, during these seasons that I've mentioned, you had quite a few injuries, and was it 3 knee operations that you had?
Yeah, that year, after that Man United game, that was when things really got bad for me. Really, I had 3 operations in quite a short space of time. But basically, it was a botched surgery, and then another botched surgery, and then in the end, the third time, I changed surgeons. I spoke to the club and said, "Listen, I need to sort this out." By the time I'd finished, then, Chris, I probably had not a lot of cartilage left in my knee, and it really had taken its toll on me, to be honest with you. Not that I knew it then. I think I only really worked this out when I packed up. And I packed up when I was 33, and I had to pack up. It was the right thing to do. I probably had got 4.5 more years out of my career than what I probably should have done after the last operation. But that's not. We'll go on to that one in a little while. But I had three operations in quick succession, and the third operation, the surgeon who'd done the operation turned around to me and said, "I can't believe the mess of your knee." He'd seen the scan, and then he basically saw the scan, and he said to me, "Can you come back this afternoon? I'll operate on you this evening." And I knew that there was a problem then, so I said, "Yeah, no problems." He said, "Have you had anything to eat or drink?" I said, "I had a coffee about an hour ago. This was at 12. He said, "Right, don't drink or eat anything now." He said, "You'll go down tonight about 7 o'clock. I'll repair this for you." He said, "It just looks a very weird one to me. There's a lump of cartilage that's just kind of rolled. It's torn and rolled underneath the joint of the knee." So that was that. I had the summer. I had the summer to recover from that, and I did recover from that. But at that point, I mean, it's the knee now that, after all this time, I haven't had. Listen, touch wood, I haven't had an operation. I will have to have operations again, but touch wood, I haven't had an operation on that knee for 25 years.
Yeah.
But it will need to be replaced. It's completely gone. So I manage it in my everyday life now, but it is one of those that I'm 50. I'm 51 in April, so in years to come, it will need to be repaired, removed, and I'll have to have a replacement. But I got back from that one. I got back from that, and it was okay. And in pre-season, so that was at the end of that year. It started like from the end of the previous year. We was playing away to Newcastle. We drew 3-3 on the night, and the day before we played the game, I went to play a ball, clip a ball with my left foot, and I just felt something go in my knee, and this was the start of it, because I ended up having four operations on that knee, and it was something in my knee. Anyway, we flew to Newcastle. We were staying overnight, and I got up in the morning. I was like, flipping out, I'm in trouble here. My knee was swollen. I went and saw the physio, and he sort of said, don't look good, Dean, this, that, and the other. I said, give me some Voltarol. So I took some Voltarol tablets, like, that were 100 milligrams. That, to be fair, mate, you take them, you take one of those, mate, you won't feel anything. Don't matter what injury you got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're that powerful, they're that strong. Played the game, I got through the game. How the hell I got through the game, I never know. We got through the game, we drew 3-3. The following day, mate, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't bend my leg. Like, my knee was twice the size that it should be. I literally crawled myself out of bed, rang the physio. I said, are you in? He says, yeah, I'm at the stadium. I said, I'm going to have to come in. I said, my leg's in the right state. And that was it. So that was then when I had the first operation. I went and had a scan, then I had the first operation, and then I got 6 months, and then after February, I think it was February time, the following year, and then I ended up having the consecutive operations again. I'd done it again, but basically I'd done it originally. I was playing Wolves in the FA Cup. I'll never forget it, and I tried to foul. It was a tactical foul to block Neil Emblem from a counter attack. Well, it was like running. It was like it was like a train running at full force. He just ran into me, running the side of my knee. I was like, I didn't know what had hit me. To be fair, I didn't know what had hit me. But what it had done is that it basically jolted my knee out and took my foot out as well, and basically tore my cartilage again. So that was the consecutive operation from then, and then it was the following season was the 97-98 season, and I was out of contract, trying to renegotiate a new contract. We weren't really getting too far, but the club wanted to retain me. I could have left then, but again, I didn't want to leave. Spurs is my club, and I didn't want to leave.
At that stage, though, Dean, at that stage, did you feel supported by the club and the fans, even though you had these injuries?
Well, no. Obviously, my performances were hindered at that time because of the injuries, and I played with injuries, Chris, that I shouldn't have played with. But
yeah,
I wanted to play. You know, in the 94-95 season, when we got to the semi-final of the FA Cup, we was playing Man United away, and I broke my toe. I basically kicked the bottom of Ryan Giggs' boot, and it cracked my toe. It cracked right down, like a big crack right down across my toe. So coming after, got it X-rayed the following day, and the club doc went to me. He said, "You won't be able to play for 6 weeks for that." I said, "You're having a laugh." I said, "We've got an FA Cup semi-final in 3 weeks." I said, "What's my options?" He said, "Well, you can try and play on with it." He said, "But that's going to be bloody painful, or we can inject it. We can inject it every game." So I was having 3 injections a game straight into my big toe joint just to play. But, you know, Chris, I'm not looking for a pity. I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, I did, you know, would you do those kind of things now in the modern day game? I probably don't see too many players doing stuff like that. But look, we all have a choice. But, you know, I was always thinking, but if I don't play and then Sol Campbell plays, or Stephen Carr plays. I don't get back in. I might not get back in the team. I've got to play. Yeah. And that was always my way. My problem was always in probably lacking self-esteem in myself to think and have the confidence in myself to go, I'll get back in. If I get fit, if I'm fit and I'm right, I'll get back in. But it ain't. It's professional football. It's not that easy. If you're at a big club like Tottenham, if you start winning games, you don't get back in the team. At that period of time, anyway, it was the days before rotation of squads and what have you. So it'd always be in the back of the line. Oh, I've got to play. So I played for 7 weeks. Yeah, I think I played for about 7 weeks with a broken toe. 3 injections a game, which is the reason why I had to pack up playing at 33. My big toe joint on my toe now, on my right foot, is double the size of the left one. Basically, I've got arthritis. It's a condition called hallucis rigidus. And basically, it's arthritis, but it's where I've had numerous injections put into the toe, and it's gone into the bone, and it's calcified the bone. And there's I'm not going to say it's dead bone, but there's spurs. I've got spurs on my toe. So there's there's things on my toe. So I played with that as well. So regards to look, you know, fans are fans, mate. Fans want to see the best players on the field, and they want to see their team winning and performing. And in the 96 season, we was not playing particularly great. It was a period of time that we had some great games, but we also had some big underachieving games. And you know, you put yourself out there on the line. You listen. If you, I always say, and I say this to my boys. I say this to my boys now, or I say to my players now, that if you're injured and you're struggling with something, you've got to decide what you can play with and what you can't. Because every time you step onto the field, you're going to be judged. And when you're at a big club, you're going to be judged. And if you're not playing well, then you need to understand that you have to. Listen. We're all good at accepting the plaudits when it's good. But we also have to accept that if we're not doing the job to the best of our ability, then it's going to come the other way. Yeah. Not that I believe that that's the right way, Chris. I don't think that fans giving players stick is particularly going to help them recapture their form. It's only going to make them suffer a little bit more and maybe suffer from lack of confidence even more. I'm not going to say that I would say that yes, it did affect me, but I've always been resilient enough to be able to go, right, next game, I need to get out next game, next game. You know, I know I always used to tell myself, the first few things I was going to do, I need to do the first few things well. But sometimes your concentration on the game might not be quite what it should be because you're worried about the injuries.
Yeah.
And I think that I definitely come into that. I come into that bracket. But listen, I'm one of them. So it's you know, I understand it. Don't worry about that. I'm like the same now when I watch the team play and players aren't doing what they should be doing. You know, we all swear at the TV, mate. We're all fans. It's a passionate game, and you know, I think that we have to accept that that's the way it is, and we also, footballers, also have to accept the rough with the smooth.
Dean, let's take you back to 1998. Obviously, you left Spurs. You then went to Crystal Palace. But how did you feel? Of course, you'd been at the club for 6 years. You know, you supported them as a boy. Leaving Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, how was that moment for you?
The saddest of my life. While trying to negotiate the contract the year before, in the summer. I went to Norway with the team for pre-season, and this was the injury that killed my career, really. I severed my cartilage in 3. I'd only been on the pitch 10 minutes. And basically I had, if you can imagine the cartilage of your knee is in a circle, mine was like split into thirds. The cartilage was split into thirds. So when I had an operation, I come back, and the surgeon that repaired my knee the last time, that got my knee right, had just gone on holiday for 3 weeks. So the club went, look, you need to get the operation, you need to get fit, go back to the club surgeon, and we'll get the operation done. It'll be fine. I went and had the operation. Said to me that the knee was damaged, but blah, blah, blah. He said, but I've tidied it up, you'll be okay. I went through about 8 weeks of rehabilitation, but every day that I trained, my knee would be like that. I couldn't even bend my leg. So we'd be icing it. I'd be going straight home from training. I'd be icing. I'd be laying on the sofa with my leg elevated, trying to get the fluid out my leg and whatever. And after about 8 to 10 weeks, yeah, it would have been, because it would have been the middle of July. We got to September, near the end of September, and I went, I can't do this anymore. I can't carry on. I can't get fit. I can't get right. I train one day and then 2-3 days off. There's got to be another solution. I said, I'm going back to see my surgeon. I'm going back to see the surgeon who Mr. Brower, he was the guy who done Gazza's operation, and he'd repaired the last knee. And I went to see him, and he done a scan, and he went, I need to operate on you tonight. I don't like the look of this. It just, your knee looks an absolute mess. He said, but we'll tidy the cartilage up, blah, 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 and we'll get you going again. Now, cartilage operation is not that long an operation, really. You know, from going down to when they inject you and they put you out to when you come back in recovery, maybe an hour tops, depending on how easy it is. I went down for surgery about 6:30 at night, and when I come round, it was like 11:30. That was 5 hours, and I looked down at the bed. My leg was elevated. I had no bend. It was bandaged up. It was high up on a sling. And this is like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and I laid there, I cried, Chris. I just lay there, and like the surgeon hadn't come round. The nurse came in, and I sort of said, "Is the surgeon coming tonight?" She went, "No, he won't. He'll be in first thing in the morning." I says, "Can you tell me anything?" She said, "No, I don't know exactly what you've had done, but you was down quite a long time. But you'll be okay, Mr. Bratt. You're in safe hands." I was like, all right. Cried my eyes out. Never really slept. He came round in the morning and he said, "Look, Dean," he said, this is a serious injury you got here, mate, and you're gonna have this is a long road. This is a long road, a long recovery." He said, basically what you've done, he said that you've severed your cartilage in 3 pieces. And normally on someone everyday life, we would probably just take that out and hope for the best, and hopefully they get, you know, fair usage out the knee. I could have took your cartilage out, but you'll be finished inside a year. You won't, you'll get a year out of it, and then the knee will probably pack up. So he said, what I've done, he said, I've never done it on a professional footballer before. He said, but I've taken 1/3 away. I've taken the untidy side of it. I've trimmed that back, and I've taken it away. But the other 2 parts that I've saved, I've stapled and glued back together.
Wow.
Now it's I don't know how it's going to take, but I'm hopeful that you'll be okay. But it's a long recovery. He said, like, you're going to be in a knee brace for the best part of 3.5 months. So we're going to go 6 weeks where you're going to have your knee where you're going to only have 30% bend in your leg. And then we'll start to take it to 40 to 50. Each couple of weeks you'll come back, I'll check you, we'll scan it, and hopefully by February, you know, by the end of February, we might be able to get you back to playing. Obviously, I'm out of contract. So one thing that will always be thankful for is that the club continued to pay me. Even though I was out of contract, they respected the fact that I got injured for the club in pre-season when I didn't have to play, but I agreed to play because they were trying to sort my contract out at the time, and we was going away on pre-season, and Gerry wanted me to go. So, but it was a long road, Chris, a very, very long road, and it was. It was probably the darkest time of my life. When you talk about, obviously there's a lot of stuff around mental health and this, that and the other. I think at that time I probably could have done with a bit of help, but you know, no one was really aware of all this stuff then. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, you know, get depressed, players get depressed with injuries and stuff, and you know, you find a way to come out the other side. I hit some enormous lows in that period of time. Not where where you're thinking about bad things or anything like that, but you know, I was drinking far too heavily at that point. Not living my life as a professional footballer, you know. But to be fair, I went to see the surgeon in early January, late December, and he said to me, he said, the knee's fine. He said, the injury's repaired. He said, I'm not worried about that. He said, but I'm saying I'm not getting better. No, I don't feel good. And he sort of said to me, he said, done some tests on me, done a couple of tests on me, done some bloods, and he went, you're drinking a lot, aren't you? And I went, yeah. He went, how much? I went, probably out 5 nights a week. He said, well, my friend, if you want to get back to playing football, you need to change your lifestyle, and you need to start acting like a professional footballer, and you will get back. You will get back, but it's up to you. But I've always been very, very disciplined like that, Chris. Like, I've always been a disciplined individual with regards to that, and I was like, right, okay. It was kind of the kick up the backside that I needed, and from then really, that was it. I used the next sort of 4.5 months to get fit. David Pleat had come in as director of football. David, who is a very, very dear friend to me now, acted as a mentor to me over the last 10 years, been absolutely phenomenal. But at that time, he sort of said to me, look, you know, we can offer you a contract. What do you want to do? And I was probably at that time, Chris, I was very, very angry with the world. And I was very, very angry because I felt that I'd not been given the treatment that I should have been given. And I don't think that my best interests were looked after by the club at that point. And I kind of was adamant that it was time. It was time to leave. For me, it was I needed to get out of the club. I needed to do something different. I felt that my Tottenham career was pretty much in tatters. Stephen Carr had then, who's a great lad and who's a friend now, Stephen had come on the scene and was performing exceptionally well. I was 28 years old and should be coming into my prime, and I needed to play. Yeah. Although I never knew if I was going to be able to play, because this was an operation that hadn't been performed on a footballer before. So I basically said to David, he made me an offer of a contract, and to be fair, it was a good offer. It was a decent offer. But I turned around to David and said, you know, I think it's time. I think it's time for me. I think I need to look at what is. It's the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my professional career, Chris. You know, but I had to make a decision. I've got to say, on the last day of the season, I was at the game. and I drove out of those gates for the last time. I think I cried for 24 hours. It was when something has been such a massive part of your life on a daily basis, and it was, you know, I lived and breathed the club. You know, it's my club. It's my club now, and stuff hurts me now when I watch now as a fan, just like all you guys and everyone else. When I don't see the team performing, or I see things that I don't believe that are right for the club, I take it very personally. But you know, you have different chapters in your life. I always, with every challenge or whatever football club I go into, whether it was as a player or whether now as a coach or as a manager, I ingrained myself in that club. And I went to Crystal Palace, and I had a hangover. I had a hangover from leaving Spurs for 6 months. And if I thought that some of the stick that I got from the Spurs fans in my later years through not performing was bad, it was nothing compared to what I got from the supporters of Crystal Palace in the first 6 months that I went there. But I had a hangover from leaving. I really just couldn't get my head around it. I wasn't playing well. But, you know, things happen. And somewhere from within, you know, I always find a way of resilience to be able to dig deep in the resources. It's the way I've been brought up to stand up and fight. And that was what I did. I stood up and fought for the belief in my own ability and my own career. And, you know, I managed to turn it around.
Dean, what would you say when you look back at your time at Tottenham Hotspur, what is your best memory at the club?
I think unforgettable memories would be the semi-final against Arsenal, but the best day and the worst day in my life all rolled up into one. And, you know, the best because it was the first time I played at Wembley. It was against Arsenal. I was buzzing for the game. I played very well on the day, I remember. Feeling incredibly low after the game. But I have this problem, Chris, I used to have this problem that when I didn't play well or the team didn't play well or we lost, I suffer with anger, like really bad. Like I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle losing. I hated losing far more than I loved winning, but I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't accept it. I'll never forget, after that game, I crashed my car on the way home. I was living on a new estate where they was building some new houses, and I was driving a rather powerful BMW at the time, and basically crashed it into a load of bricks and ripped the car off. So it's not one of my, as I say, started off the day being one of the greatest days of my life, but by the end of it, it was the worst day of my life. Winning at Anfield, the quarter-final, unbelievable. Beating Man United at home. I think those are the main ones, really. I think those are the real main memories. As in regards to highs. Listen, there's always highs. You know, when you're playing for Spurs, it's a roller coaster, as it is with any football. Unless you're winning every single week. And at that time, we weren't winning every single week, but we did have some great days.
Dean, if you could pick out a few Tottenham Hotspur players who are your favourite that you played alongside, who would they be?
Well, I was lucky enough to have someone to nurture me through games, and especially in the first 3 years, first 3-4 years. Mabs was one of the most incredible professionals I've ever played with in my life. For him, he's such a great guy, but to actually see what he had to go through on a daily basis to be a professional footballer, even though it wasn't when he first came to Spurs in 81, 82. Just an incredible guy. I think I've benefited from having him alongside me, especially in the first year when I came in, and I was, so to have to skip by the side of me really to help me and talk me through a lot of stuff was extremely beneficial to me. I would say Darren Anderson. We were neighbours. We signed on the same day. We lived literally a minute away from each other, and he played in front of me, and he was. I can't tell you how good this boy was, and I know he's had a lot of stick over the period of time over his injuries and given the name sick note and what have you. But that again weren't his fault. That was at the same time that I was struggling. Another error of judgment of the club in regards to surgery, what he needed, what he didn't need. But wow, what a player. What a player. This boy could do everything. He could do everything. He could run, he could tackle, he could cross it, he could shoot. Great dead ball specialist. He was up there. Now, I think in 96, he could have signed for Man United. I think it was 96. This is before the emergence of David Beckham. So David Beckham probably owes Darren Anderton a drink, because if Darren had gone to Man United, David Beckham would no way would he have got the opportunities that he got in that Man United side.
When things like that, when things like that happen, and players like yourself know that Darren Anderton, for example, has got a chance in going to the champions Manchester United, is that discussed in the changing room? Was that discussed amongst the teammates?
No, not really. I think that, when you're on the field, I think the biggest thing that I understand is that with the players that we had at that time, some players might not get on with other players, but we had each other's backs when we went on the field.
Yeah.
So that was never an issue. It was never. There would never be a case of us going onto the field and thinking that someone would toss it off because they've got their eye on the move to go somewhere else. Never at that time.
Was there any players that you didn't get on with at Tottenham during your time?
No, I wouldn't say that there wasn't players that I didn't get on with. We had little I'm going to say cliques. We had certain people who we used to hang around with more than others. I, to be honest with you, and I was the same at Crystal Palace, that listen, I got on with everybody. I used to drive in with someone every day, as it was when I was at Spurs. I was driving every day with Darren. Darren and I used to drive each other in every day. When I was at Crystal Palace, I drove in every day with Andy Linnigan, who used to play for Arsenal, because he lived not far from me. But there's people that you'll get on better with than others. But to be fair, I never, I try to get on with everybody. But when I go on a football field, Chris, I'm a different animal, because it's about winning.
Yeah.
And at Spurs, it's winning, but winning with style.
Dean, there's a question now on screen from Roy Price, and he asked, Dean, how would you have viewed the role of social media if we had it when you played?
I wouldn't have been on it, Chris. Straight up, I wouldn't go on it. I wouldn't have it. I don't think that I would be able to concentrate on my job to the best of my ability if I was getting pelted left, right, and centre every bad result that we had. So as much as that, I would always, I'd always want to embrace the supporters. You know, the supporters pay your wages, etc. You appreciate that, and I would do anything. And I always, like, even now, there's sometimes I see people. Sometimes it might be a support from our era, from my era, that might turn around. Oh, Dean, is there any chance? Could have a photograph? Yeah, absolutely no problem at all. No problem with that. Give people the time of day, Chris. Treat people as you'd like to be treated. But I don't think that I would have been on social media.
Yeah. Carlos writes on screen now. Any funny stories about Neil Ruddock?
Yeah, I've got a funny story about. I've got a couple of funnies about Razor. Razor, I've become really close with because he's signed Crystal Palace. And one day we finished training on Tuesday, and me and Steve Staunton and Razor went for lunch in a Greek restaurant in Beckenham, and had a nice bit of fish and whatever. And Razor said to me, well, Stan was going back up to Liverpool, and Razor said to me, he said, come on, Garincha. He's called me Garincha. Sort of, that's another long story. He said, Garincha, he says, we're cracking on or what? And I went, not today, mate. I said, I'm picking my little boy up from school. He said, okay. So he comes in on Thursday. So we're off on the Wednesday. He comes in on Thursday, and he's got the same clothes on as what he had on when we'd gone for lunch on Tuesday. And I looked at him and I went, oi, big fella. He went, yes, fella. I went, you been on? Nah, son. He said, I said, you've been on one, haven't you? And he went, yeah, been on one. Anyway, it turned out I knew the restaurant owner. And the restaurant owner said, he was like, after you went, he said, there was a group of people come in, a big table of people came in and had lunch. He said, he joined them. He said, he joined them. He said, and then he said, he got absolutely bollocks. He said, and then I went out in the morning, he says, and he was asleep in his car with all his golf gear on. So he'd gone to his car and realised he was steamed up and couldn't drive. So the car park was round the back of the restaurant. And he put all his golf waterproofs on and jumpers on and what have you, and he slept in the car. And then he got up on the Wednesday, and then he'd done the same again.
Wow.
Unbelievable. But that was Razor all over. Not so much in the Spurs days, because Terry had him on a very, very tight leash. And I've got to say, he's the best centre half I ever played with. That first year, when I came in 92, 93, he was incredible.
Dean, what other Tottenham defenders did you feel very comfortable going out on the pitch and knowing that, you know, you've got the best back four?
Well, listen, God bless him, Justin. Justin was, solid left back. Incredible desire and will to win. And he was one of them lads that you want in the trenches with you. I mean, if you was going to war, you'd take Just with you, hard as nails. Brought up at Southend with David Webb. All right. Listen, if you could snap someone in half under David Webb, you wouldn't play, because that was how he wanted his defenders. He wanted his defenders the same way as what he was. And I was lucky enough. I played with Justin in my first 7 games when we got promoted at Southend, and Justin had come back from Spurs on loan, and you know, he was. You could see what a good player was. I mean, Justin was. I was just 19, just coming up 20. So Justin was 6 months older than me. But you could see what a good player he was. You know, Mabs, you know, we're lucky enough. I played with Mabs, and Mabs alongside me, and you know, he was a top player. He was a very, very good player.
Richard Evans asked earlier, and I can't seem to get the comment on screen now, but what's happened to Chris Armstrong? Do you know anything about Chris Armstrong?
No, I don't actually. I don't know, but someone showed me a picture. One of my best friends is Bobby Barry, who used to play for Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And Bob showed me a photo of Chris Armstrong, and I went, "That ain't Chris Armstrong." He went,
with long hair.
Because he's got the old Bob Marley dreadlocks and everything.
Yeah.
And
I've seen it.
And I was like, "No." And he went, "Dino, that's Stretch Armstrong." I'm telling you, I had to get the phone. Honestly, unbelievable. The last time I saw Chris was in 1998, believe it or not.
Wow.
The year that I left Tottenham, David Howes and I went to Portugal to play golf for a week with David's brother Gareth.
Yeah.
And David's agent. And Chris was staying in the hotel next door. And that was the last time that I saw him face to face.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Dean, we're going to move on to you know, the current Tottenham team and Jose Mourinho. But before we do, the Amazon documentary, did you watch it? If you did, what do you think of it?
I did watch it, but I wasn't over. I don't think it's realistic, Chris. It doesn't give a realistic view. It gets edited. Obviously, the club are going to want to change certain things, whatever, but that's not, for me, it's not the reality of what goes on within a football club. As in regards, you see what they want you to see. That was my opinion of it. If
you were a coach or manager and then your chairman turned around and said that this was going to happen, how would you feel about it?
Well, he's the boss. He pays the wages, mate, so you do as you're told.
Dean, let's move on to Jose Mourinho. Of course, you know, the fans are very divided at the moment about Jose Mourinho. You know, serial winner, won trophies everywhere he's gone. But the style of football this season, you know, some people have been very, very frustrated with it. Of course, we went, you know, this 5-match, you know, winning every game. But before that, we lost 5 out of 6 Premier League games. You know, the fans are very mixed about it. What are your thoughts on Jose Mourinho?
I've not been over impressed with the team, Chris. To be fair, I don't. Look, the guy's a winner. There's no doubt about that, or has been a winner. So he should be respected for what he's done. But I think that he obviously has an obsession with winning, and he doesn't care how he does it. So when the team's winning and it's okay, most people will probably accept it. But when they don't win, the team doesn't look very good. So we can play great football. He's not interested in playing great football. He's interested in winning. He's interested in putting trophies on his CV, in my opinion.
Do you think Jose is the man to deliver trophies at Tottenham? Because when I look at our trophy record, Dean, it is abysmal. You know, you're a Tottenham fan. You know when the last time we won trophies, 2008 was the last time we won a League Cup.
But but the modern day game, Chris. You know, it is not easy. It is not easy to win trophies with the teams. You know, I hear that the chairman gets a lot of stick and that, like, you know, he does. I think I've got to be honest with you. I think he's done a pretty unbelievable job for the club. To be fair, you know, in regards to the stadium, listen, there's money been available. There has been money available. There was money available under Maurizio. Might not have been loads and loads of money, but there was money available. And pre-pandemic, had we managed to keep moving forwards and get in the Champions League, then I believe that it would have seen the evolution of this club move steadily up and up to a place where we could be competing for honours every year. Now, you can say that we're competing this year because we're in the Carabao Cup final, but a Carabao Cup won't cut it for me in regards to what we've seen. I think that we have some great players. We've got a couple of world-class strikers that are probably in the top 7 or 8 strikers in the world. But I don't see... I'll ask you a question, Chris. Do you think that the team has improved from the day that Maurizio left to today?
No, I don't.
Exactly. So, now you can say things like, well, yeah, we've had some players for too long. Some players have been here too long, and you know the team needed changing before when Maurizio was here. But that was why, he didn't get the money to do that when he before he left, etc., etc. There has been money available. It's not easy signing players now. You are looking at Tottenham Hotspur. You are looking for the creme de la creme. Now, you are looking for players at Champions League level. So whether we're developing players within the academy or whether we're buying players, they've got to be top 4 because that's what we're aspiring to be. I don't think that this group are good enough to get to the top 4. I do think that they're good enough to get to the top 4, but I don't think the way that they are playing is good enough to get them to the top 4.
Dean, this season has been very up and down, and of course Tottenham spent 5 weeks on top of the Premier League. I know a lot of past players and legends of the club, even people like David Ginola, Jurgen Klinsmann, who you played with, Harry Redknapp, they were saying earlier this season that Tottenham could compete to win the Premier League. We all know what Jose's done. What do you believe is missing in this Tottenham team now? Because when I talk about trophies, the year even before you signed, 1991, was the last time we won an FA Cup. As I say, 2008 was the last time we won a domestic cup. 1961 since we won a league title. And, of course, 1984 since we won a European trophy. We've come so close. And, of course, we've spoken about a couple of semi-finals that you were in. We've come so close to winning trophies over the years. What is it that's not getting us over that line?
Well, it's things happen at certain times. Spurs should have won the Premier League 2015-2016 season when Leicester won it. Yeah. Unfortunately, we got embroiled in a war in a game that we didn't really need to get involved in at Chelsea. When the game almost turned into a riot and we lost the game, and then it kind of fell away from there. But I look at the team now. Right, I look at the team now, or the group now. Hart, Hugo, Aurier, Doherty, Dyer, Sanchez, Alderweireld, Rodon, Taganga, Reguilon, Davis, Højbjerg, Tanguy, Sissoko, Winks, Bale, Bergwijn, Lamela, Dele, Lo Celso, Sonny, Moira, Kane and Vinicius. I think that group's good enough to get into the top 4. But what I would like to see is that I would like to see the team be able to play with a freedom and an expression like we are used to seeing them play with. The manager that we have may be a serial winner, and he's been a serial winner over a period of time. But the game is evolving all the time.
Yeah.
And I do not think that this group of players is suited to sitting back in a medium and low block and allowing teams onto them all the time. And the thing that I've got to say that I haven't liked Chris recently is some of the managers' press conferences, where, to be fair, I think he's thrown some players under the bus. And I think, you know, you start doing things like that, and I think that you are sending yourself down a slippery slope. I've been a manager, and you need players on your side. And once you start, some of these boys are, a lot of these boys are millionaires. You start throwing them under the bus, mate, they will throw you under the bus. I didn't like his press conference after the Arsenal game. I think he deflected from himself and threw it all on the players, as in regards to that he said after the game, you know, we'd won against Crystal Palace, we'd won against Dynamo Zagreb. It's almost the same team, bar one player, two players. Why would they not play on the front foot? Why would they not go for teams and this, that? It's the same players, blah, blah, blah. Now, I've been a manager, Chris, and I've been a coach, and I am a coach, and I'm a pro license coach, and I work a lot on analysis of games.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, there is no way that in that game that the manager told them to go and press Arsenal from when Arsenal were playing out at the back four. There's no way that he said to them, go for the jugular, get after them, get in their faces. We're going to go after it. There is no way. Players players will do what a manager asks them to do. Players will set up how the manager sets them up. Now, if the manager had set them up to go and press Arsenal, when Leno was taking goal kicks, he'd have had 10 players in their half almost pushed right on. The two wide ones would have been in between the fullbacks and the centre halves, and they would have been on them. But they didn't. They sat halfway in Arsenal's half and let them have it at the back, which tells me that the manager was fearful of Arsenal playing through them. Now, let's be fair, at this moment in time, this is Arsenal are in a big transitional period. And this is not the best Arsenal team that you're ever going to see in your life, that's for sure. And we missed on an opportunity. It was only with 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go, that with 10 men, that we got in their faces and could have got something from the game. But I just don't like the press conferences when we lose, it's like, we're getting beat and we can't get it back. Oh, there was only one team trying to win the game. It was us. We were trying to win the game. And then at other times, it's like, oh, well, we played well, and we was in control. There was nothing happening, but, we made mistakes. That's the game of football. I just don't like. I can understand you're playing against a Man City, or you're playing against a Liverpool. You might go, right, our tactics might need to change slightly against these type of teams, but not against teams in the middle of that are halfway in the league. That our expectation is to beat these teams playing the way that we play. But I've just been quite disappointed. The manager looks sad to me. Whenever I see him on TV in a press conference, I never see a smile on his face. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, Chris. The pressure that the man is under is massive. But that's why he's paid the big bucks, huh?
What does he need to do, Dean, at the end of this season to keep his job? Because, of course, He's got no break clause in his contract. Mauricio Pochettino was sacked because the board felt that he couldn't get that top 4 spot. Now, we scraped the Europa League last season to get into it this season. I feel as a Spurs fan that Jose kind of convinced the Tottenham fans that we would be taking the Europa League very seriously this year and possibly win the competition. And then, of course, you saw what happened in the last couple of weeks. But what does Jose need to do? If we don't get top 4, but win the Carabao Cup, is that a successful season for Spurs? Because, of course, we've got this long trophy drought.
I don't think that... Listen, if you get in the top 4 and you get Carabao Cup, then you've got to say, well, it's been a success, isn't it? Even though that people aren't happy with what they see. For me, to win the Carabao Cup would be nice. It would be nice. But the older Spurs fans, that Carabao Cup is not the be-all and end-all, would not be the be-all and end-all for the older fans that expect to see the team play in a certain way, etc. I look at this squad, and this squad is better than the squad that he inherited when he took over from Maurizio. Yet we're not doing any better. And to be fair, Maurizio, to be fair, to his credit, he used to use the Carabao Cup and sometimes the FA Cup to shuffle his pack a little bit and bring young players through.
Yeah.
But, in this game, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Were you surprised, Dean, that Poch got the sack when he did?
I'm never surprised by anything in football now, Chris. Nothing ever surprises me now. I think that, let me tell you, I'm one of Maurizio's biggest fans. I watched more games in his tenureship in, how long was he here? 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
I watched more games in the 4 or 5 years that he was at the club than what I'd watched in the previous 10 since I'd left. Because I loved the way the team played.
Yeah.
I loved the way the team played. I loved what they were trying to do. And people can turn around and go, oh, they've come up short here and they've come up short there. And, oh, yeah, well, he's not won a trophy. But, listen, he's gone to PSG. He's won a trophy inside 3 months.
Yeah.
And he'll win more. Where we are, the English League, there's no easy games. It's the English Premier League, etc. I think what I don't, one of the things I've really not, there's obviously been a fallout with Delhi. There's obviously been a fallout with Winks. There's obviously been a fallout with Bale. I don't like that type of stuff, Chris. It doesn't serve any purpose. Now,
do you think Jose's lost some of the dressing room then?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to say I'm not there every day, so I don't know. But there are. Well, I'm not going to say he's lost the dressing room, but it's pretty obvious that Delhi's going to want to leave in the summer, isn't it? It's pretty obvious that Winks is going to have to go. Bale's already come out and said he's going back to Real Madrid. You don't need to be. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to work it out. I think it'll be a busy summer for Spurs. I think that, me personally, I think that if Spurs have a fair end to the season, a fair end, and I don't mean Champions League, because I don't see the Champions League. I know that they're only 3 points behind Chelsea, but Chelsea look in a different level at the moment. Look very, very good. I don't particularly see top 4, but I think if he has a fair end to their season, I think that he will be he will be in the job next year. And I think that he'll get rid of players, or he'll try and get rid of players, but that's not always easy because Mr. Levy likes to drag every last dollar that he can out of any buying club. We're in a pandemic. There's not a lot of money out there. It's going to be a very, very difficult time. But I've got to be honest with you, there are 4 or 5 players that I see on this piece of paper that I have in front of me that I believe he'll be trying to remove.
Well, so Harry Winks, Dele Alli, who are the other 2?
Aurier, Sanchez, Winks, Sissoko, Dele. I think those players will be, the club will do everything that they can, or he will be doing everything he can to get rid of those players so that he can create some funds for maybe, 3 or 4 players. Well, maybe only 3 or 4 players. He's already come out and said that Scarlett will be involved next year. You would expect Oliver Skip to come back from Norwich.
Yeah.
So he'll be in and around that. He'll probably then look to go and spend his money. He'll probably look to spend his money on getting himself a couple of centre halves and a top class right back.
Dean Revan, lots of comments in here asking your opinion on Eric Dyer, and of course, I've got a question written down for you anyway about Tottenham's back 4, because Jose Mourinho this season has swapped that back 4 around so many times. And as a former right back yourself at Spurs, Serge Aurier, Matt Doherty, or Javat Tanganga, who is the best out of those 3?
Kyle Walker-Peters. Kyle Walker-Peters. Honestly, it astounds me. I was at the first game of the season last year, as in the year that I was at Watford, the year that Maurizio got the sack in the October, November, whatever it was, and I watched Kyle Walker-Peters play the first game against Aston Villa. Absolutely outstanding. Kid got injured after that. Never saw him. He had a bad hamstring. New managers come in, let him go. Gone to Southampton, been an absolute revelation. And he'll be more reliable than, I'm not going to say Jaff, because Jaff's been injured for a period of time. But between Aurier and Doherty, I would have rather had Kyle. I wouldn't have spent 15 million on Doherty when I've got Kyle there.
Yeah.
So when I look at it and I weigh it up, I don't see it. I see a young kid here who's played some games, played a few games, and when he's played, he's acquitted himself very, very well. And people sometimes, Chris, they need an opportunity. And I think that this kid deserved an opportunity. Now, I've watched him quite closely this year, being at Southampton, and he's had some outstanding performances.
Yeah.
So, I know he's only on loan, but if Serge was to go, I would pull him back. Me personally, I'd pull him back because, it could save you a lot of money. Boy has the potential. I tell you that the thing that I look at with Jose Mourinho. Right, so we're talking about Spurs, right? And Spurs are, I'm biased. Spurs is the club, right, for me. They're in the top 4 clubs in the country. Right, they're in the top 4 clubs in the country. And the chairman gets criticised a lot, not spending the money, but money's always there. The thing is, under Maurizio, you had young players come through. They believed in giving young players opportunities, but he improved players.
Yeah.
He improved players. My view on Jose Mourinho, on studying him for quite a long time, and I don't listen to all these claptrap about that he gives young players, he's given loads of young players opportunities in the clubs that he's been at I don't buy it, Chris. I don't buy it. It's a myth. The manager is a great manager at getting results with top world-class players, but he does not develop players. That is a fact.
Yeah.
That is facts, mate. He does not develop players, does not develop young players. And he can, to be fair, I don't care. Tottenham's my club. I'm never going to be manager of Tottenham. I'm never going to work at Tottenham. So I'm a fan and I'll have my view. And I'm telling you, this man does not develop players. So this is where Spurs are at that stage that they can't go out and buy the best players. But he will go out and try and buy 2, 3, 4 players in the summer that are in between the ages of 24 and 27 that have got some experience of the game that he believes fit to his style and his principles. Because this is what it's about. This is about his principles of how he does things.
Dean, dare I say it, if Tottenham don't get a Champions League place for next season via top 4 and we don't win the Carabao Cup, is Jose Mourinho's job on the line?
That is only a question for Mr. Levy. I think that what would concern me, well, it does concern me. It concerns me as a fan. Real Madrid, Casillas and Ramos. Man United, Pogba, Shaw. Tottenham, Ali, Winks, Bale. Everywhere he goes, there's a fallout with players. And what worries me is what damage is done along the way. Football management, Chris, it is tough business.
Yeah.
The pressure is incredible. And the one thing that you don't need to do is go looking for confrontation, because confrontation will find you in this job.
Yeah.
And my thing that I worry whether this manager at this moment in time, but mate, listen, he's a clever guy. There is no doubt about it. He is a clever guy. Some of it, I'm sure he does it on purpose, mate. I'm sure. No, honestly, he does it on purpose. He's clever. He's clever. He's a clever guy. Super clever guy. But some of it, I think he does it on purpose. I think he enjoys it. I think he enjoys that confrontation and that part where he's arguing with people all the time.
Dean, I can't not have you on and not discuss this. Now, if Jose Mourinho did go, because there has been so much media speculation, and even the bookies are talking about names already, about managers possibly replacing Jose Mourinho if he left. Julian Nagelsmann, of course, RB Leipzig's manager, and someone you used to work very closely with, Brendan Rodgers. Now, if Brendan Rodgers was offered the job at Tottenham in the future, do you think the job would suit him, and do you think that he would leave Leicester for Spurs?
Would the job suit him? 100%. 100% the job would suit him. Would he leave Leicester for Tottenham? Well, Brendan's an ambitious man. And I enjoy working with him. He is a great coach. He is up there, and he does improve players while getting results, as is what he's done at Leicester. I would say, well, first and foremost, it would depend on how much the compensation is. You know, to get rid of Mr. Mourinho and his staff is going to cost a hell of a lot of money anyway.
Yeah.
But it depends if you're prepared if you look at, let's just use an example, 20 months ago, Champions League final, Harry Winks was one of Spurs' best players on that night, and Dele Alli was playing that team. You probably, combined, you probably wouldn't have got them for less than 100 million. I don't think you get 50. I don't think you'll get 50 for the pair now. So it depends how much the manager has on his compensation, doesn't it? Whether you want to bring those players back and get those players back, because you know, yes, results, etc., but football, do not underestimate. Football is business. It is big business, and it is all about money. Premier League is all about money. The big clubs, it's about money. I don't think that Brendan. I think that opportunities to manage clubs like Tottenham are very, very, very rare. They don't come around too often. And I think that if the opportunity was there, I'm not saying he would, but I'd be surprised if he didn't want to take up the opportunity of managing a club like Spurs. That's just my opinion, Chris.
So if it did happen, Dean, you might come in as his assistant then, yeah?
Oh, I don't know about that, mate. I think that one's long. You know, Brendan and I had 2 very enjoyable years with Brendan. Fantastic. And then we, through circumstances, we went our separate ways. I got a job at Crystal Palace when we had left Reading. I got a job at Crystal Palace, and then Brendan went to Swansea, and you know, we exchanged texts, but more that I sent him a text to congratulate him on a good result, or to tell him how much I'm enjoying watching the evolution of his team.
Dean, I've got to ask you, obviously you played with Teddy Sheringham. You saw that Teddy Sheringham went off, won various trophies at Manchester United and then come back. Now, lots of media speculation. It is constant about Harry Kane possibly leaving Tottenham this summer. You know, even if we won the League Cup or if we didn't win the League Cup. What's your take on someone like Harry Kane? Should he leave Spurs to go and win trophies, or should he stay to try and win trophies at Spurs and obviously get the goal scoring record overtaking Jimmy Greaves? I
think that he should. First and foremost, I don't think that there's anyone out there at the moment that could afford to buy him. In this global pandemic where we are, I just don't think that there's the money out there, Chris, that could afford to buy him.
Yeah.
I think that Harry should do whatever he feels that he wants to do. But I personally believe that I think he loves it at Tottenham. Spurs is his club, and I think that he will. I think that he'll want to stay to try and help the club win something, and in that process, win the all-time, or take the all-time goal scoring record. You know, I think that Harry's 27 now. If it's not this year, I'm not sure that he goes. I think that he'll stay. I don't really see it. I just think that the level that he's at, I just think it'll cost too much money for someone at this moment in time, Chris.
Yeah. There's also been talk about possible outgoings of Hugo Lloris and Heung-min Son. Do you see any of them two going in the summer?
Hugo, yes, I do. I think that he's been a fantastic servant for the club, but I think that he, I could see him returning to France, and I could see him returning, and I could see him going to PSG for sure. He was one who had a great relationship with Maurizio. He's been a fantastic servant for the club. There's no doubt about that. I think he showed how much he cared last week when he done his interview on Thursday after the game. But the way that he was talking was that he's kind of sick of the club, was the way that he was talking, or the things that are going on, whatever they are. But obviously, Sonny, I don't see that one. I think Sonny will stay. I think he looks like no matter what was going on in his life, he's the happiest man in the world. He loves his football. I think he's obviously he's got a great relationship or a telepathy with Harry as well, and are vitally important to the club. But again, in this current climate, mate, I just don't see where anyone would have the money to buy a Son or a Kane in this current climate.
Yeah. Dean, obviously you played a lot of White Hart Lane, and of course we've got the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which we've had for a couple of years now. You were very fortunate to sit in the opposition dugout against Mauricio Pochettino. Talk us through the new stadium. When you went in there for the first time, did it remind you of White Hart Lane?
Well, the first time I went in it, I was not long after it was finished. I went to a function and had a bit of a tour around and a look around, and it's just it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal stadium. I think that we're in an age now of modern day stadiums, aren't we? There's a lot of people that have moved their stadiums and what have you over the course of the last 15 years. I've got to say that it's to be fair, I wouldn't mind playing in it. It is the best stadium I've ever been in, I think. And the facilities.
That's why we need trophies, Dean, isn't it? What Pochettino said about the furniture in a mansion, this rebuild that we all talk about, that the fans go on about this rebuild, but it seems like this rebuild is going to be huge, and the amount of money that we need to spend to challenge, because as a fan's point of view, I want to see Spurs challenge for the Premier League.
Yeah, I think that, when you're doing this stuff, you've got to do it bit by bit. Alex Ferguson was the master at it. He used to build teams within teams. Spurs have got to get themselves a really what is a regular back four. That's they've got to get some consistency at the back. I mean, it'd be interesting in the last 3 months, and I haven't looked at it, but I know that it'll be a lot. How many successive games that Jose has played the same the same centre half partnership in 2 consecutive games? I bet it's not too many.
No.
But that's your foundation. That's your foundation of your team.
Dean, last question for you. The Carabao Cup is a month away, the final against Manchester City. From a coaching perspective, how does Jose Mourinho set up for this game to beat Manchester City? Because we all know that they are an absolutely quality side.
Well, I think that, he definitely ain't going to go after Man City, that's for sure. He's not going to go after them to press them high up the field. I think that what you have to do with Man City, and to be fair, you have to do this with most of the top sides. And when we came with Watford to Tottenham, this was one of the things that we tried to do. You have to close the inside of the pitch off. You have to stop these players, these quality players, being able to get on the ball in between your units, in between the lines. You have to stop that. So for me, Jose will really pack it up. He'll really pack it up. He will tuck everything in, and he will really try and condense it. Listen, I would never, on a one-off game, even if I was the biggest gambler going, I'd never bet against Jose Mourinho winning a one-off game. Ever. Ever, ever.
Yes or no, Dean? Are we going to win the cup?
I would say that there's a chance. I would not be surprised. Listen, I'd be happy. It wouldn't take all the problems away.
Yeah.
and it might make the manager become a little bit more arrogant than what he already is. But because he just say, "I've won you your first trophy in 14 years," but it would be nice for the club to win a trophy. But for me, the first thing at the beginning of the season that we have to be looking at as a football club is Champions League, because that is where the money is. That is where the money is that will help you go out and get the best players. Winning the Carabao Cup will not put money in your pocket to go out and buy a very good player, a world-class player next year. You get in the Champions League, you get into the group stages, and then you get into the last 16 and the last 8. That's when the big money starts coming.
Yeah,
that is where we have got to be. That's where that's the bread and butter.
Yeah, definitely. Well, trophies are way overdue, as I said, Dean, and hopefully that Jose can put one in the cabinet, and hopefully it will be the League Cup, will be the first of many. Dean, I can't thank you enough. I can't believe that we've been talking for 2 hours. I could talk to you all night about Spurs. So thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
That's a pleasure, Chris. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much, and come on, you Spurs.